Hey, now in this video, I'm going to share with you how to create great contrast in your lyrics like the pros so that you can write storytelling lyrics that are descriptive, that create imagery and absolutely captivate your listeners, that you absolutely love too. Now, oftentimes songwriting is a fine balance between description, building imagery, and keeping things simplistic so you don't confuse the listener. But in those moments where you do want to create imagery, what are some of the best strategies? Now, having written for over 10 years, I've got this down to a fine art, and I'm going to share with you the exact steps on how to do that for your songwriting. So we're going to jump over to my computer. I'm going to give you the exact walkthrough of how I craft my lyrics in a way that doesn't confuse listeners, that tells story, that builds imagery, and then how you can implement it into your songwriting. So let's get started with this. Now, the first thing I want to share with you is knowing what you want to say and being able to say that better. Now, that is easier said than done, but that is the backbone of what I'm going to be sharing with you. So first and foremost, know what we want to say and say it better. Now, here's an example one that I've put together for you. So example one is, I want to hold your hand. Now, in this case, we know what we want to say. We want to basically say, I want to hold your hand in a lyric. Okay, now this is a very common lyric that we might say in a lot of songs, but how can we actually build on that lyric in order to say it better? Well, we can build on the imagery and we can start talking about the fingertips or the grip, or that your hand is locked into theirs, or the crinkles in the hand, or talking about 5 fingers, or intertwine, or warmth of the hand. That's how we start to build the imagery for the listener. But what does that actually look like in a lyric? Well, here's an example. So we go from I want to hold your hand to I want to lay my palm onto yours, wrap my fingers into the safety of warmth. Now, how much better does that sound than just I want to hold your hand? It's saying the same thing. It's saying the exact same thing, but just in a far more detailed way that's building out that imagery. And remember what we've said before, know what we want to say and say it better. So let's go into example 2. Example 2, I want to be as free as the birds. Okay, so then we use that same concept that we used here, and we're saying clouds, earth, water, wings, unlock the chains. Possibly you could talk about, let's say the lyric is about feeling that you're in this cycle of maybe working life and you want to be as free as the birds and just fly, right? So unlock the chains or release the shackles. Or another way of saying this is see the clouds from the other side. Rather than standing here on earth looking up, what if we could go on the other side of the clouds? Or what about taste the sweetness of freedom is another way of putting it. So here is the example 2. So instead of I want to be as free as the birds, we could build on this and say something like unlock the chains, taste the freedom like a bird on the other side of the clouds, right? And that is saying exactly the same thing, but in just a far more detailed descriptive way. Let's go into example 3, which is a very common thing that we see in a lot of lyrics. I love you, okay? It's just saying to somebody, I love you. And it's perfectly put, but what if we just want to build on the imagery again? Well, what do we actually love about this individual? Is it their hair? Is it their body? Is it their touch? Is it their heart, their soul? They're just some basic things that we can start to explore to see if we can build on that imagery. So in this example, I love you. Well, what if your heart is my best friend, or your love pours like an ocean? That is far more detailed than just this. Straight away, if your lyric was the second option as opposed to I love you, you can just feel the imagery. Your love pours like an ocean. You can see it in your head. You can imagine it. And for the listener, that really helps them with bringing them into our song. Now, there are songs where you may want to keep things simple and you may just want to say things like, I love you, I want to be as free as the birds, or I want to hold your hand. That is very common. And that's the art of songwriting, is knowing when to push a lyric and knowing not when to, okay? Or when not to, shall I say. So you have to find that fine line for your songs. And this is subjective song to song. So dependent on the type of song you're writing, the listener, the type of audience you're writing for, the type of artist, all of those things you have to consider. Because there'll be artists out there that will just say things very, very simply. And will just say things like, I love you. Versus other artists that would be more inclined to say things like, your love pours like an ocean. And also the genre that you're writing. So if you're writing country music, it would be different to if you was writing a dance song. Or if you're writing folk music, it would be different to a pop song, and so on. Okay? So to help you with this, to give you some guidance, what I have found very common in so many songs that I've analyzed is that the verse is great for storytelling. It's great for setting the scene and building the imagery within that lyric. The chorus is more lyrically simplistic, and it's focused on keeping the attention with the use of hooks. So in a chorus, it's typically where we might say more things like, I want to be as free as the birds. I want to hold your hand. I love you, or whatever the very simplest way of saying the lyric is. Versus when you go into that verse, you might be more inclined to say some of those more detailed lyrics. If we go to here, I want to lay my palm onto yours, wrap my fingers into the safety of warmth. That's typically more a verse lyric. Or unlock the chains, taste the freedom like a bird on the other side of the clouds. Again, with the level of detail that's gone into that lyric, it's more inclined to be a verse lyric. And then finally here, your heart is my best friend, your love pours like an ocean. It's more inclined to be a verse lyric. That's not always the case, and that's where I want you to make sure that it's a fine balance between the both. And that's when you grow as a songwriter, you start to understand when you want that more detailed descriptive lyric versus when you want more of a simplistic lyric just to say whatever it is you're trying to say. And the verse is great for storytelling, the chorus is where you want to emphasize the hooks. So there you have it. Now you know the exact walkthrough of how to take your lyrics and build on what it is you're trying to say. But the most important step of that entire process is first and foremost knowing what you're trying to deliver, knowing what you're trying to say in the lyric and to your listener. As soon as you know what you're trying to say, only at that point can then you look to build on that lyric. If you don't know what you're trying to say, then you're just going to get stuck and you're never going to be able to build anything out. And then remember, you've got a balance between the verse and the chorus. Typically the verse is that detailed imagery versus that chorus where we're going to focus and emphasize more so on hooks. So go ahead, go and implement this into your songwriting. If you haven't already, please drop a subscribe for this channel, and for more videos just like this, drop a comment below for any more videos that you'd like to see. We've also got a completely free training in the description below if you want to go through and watch that as well. So I've been Danny Boyle here, founder of Songwriters International, and I'll see you over on another video.